LA podcast, an idiot's guide made by people who have no idea what they're doing. I am your host, Jessica Sprague, along with my iridescent husband, Andrew. How are you?
Okay, someone's a college grad.
I know. I learned that word in college.
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
As if that's a big word.
Yeah, that is a big word, Andrew. So this is our third episode, and by this point we have released the first episode and have kind of announced ourselves to the world. Our media birthing, I guess you could call it. And we really appreciate all the nice comments that people have been giving us. It was a pretty successful day. Had a lot of downloads, a lot of follows on the social medias. And anyway, we just wanted to say thank you and keep complimenting us. We appreciate it. So we just wanted to give an update on our lives, just kind of other things that we've been doing around in LA. I mean, we are still unemployed, so we've had lots of time to do stuff. We wanted to give a job update.
Job update. See if I can figure out a little soundbite.
Okay, ready, go.
Job update. Looking for jobs. Job update. It's all about jobs.
Jason Derulo. All right, perfect. So, Andrew, why don't you start? You've been the most successful out of the two of us with your job life. So go ahead.
Great. Well, I would think for anybody moving to LA, a job is a number one. If you can get a job before you get here, all the better. Obviously, that's something that you should have anywhere that you move. But if you're like us and you haven't been able to or weren't able to get one before you moved, I would say just the shotgun blast so far is just the best. I was all over Google and Craigslist and Indeed and Monster and all of those ones, kind of just getting a resume ready and working so that way I could apply at production jobs that I was interested in at like WB and all those kinds of things. However, I was able to land a job with the U.S. Census, so I get to walk around and bother people. I never got to be a Mormon missionary. I left the MTC before I went out there, so long story I'm sure we'll get into later, but
it's such a lovely
I'll finally
story.
get to knock on people's doors and bother them and ask them questions about their beliefs and their race.
Yeah.
So just like Mormonism, but...
And white people.
Right. So I was able to get a job with the U.S. Census, which happens every 10 years, at least on a federal level, and that is happening here in 2020, so I'm going to be one of the people roaming around. It was pretty good pay. It's only temporary, but it's a couple of months while I am able to figure out other stuff, and it kind of works with my schedule. I'm a personable guy, able to walk around for now. We'll see in a couple of weeks.
We'll see if the Rona takes your legs. Right. I've heard that it does that.
But what about you?
Well, I should preface that I did have a job technically when I was moving out here. I was supposed to transfer to the Target in West Hollywood. Now, without getting too deep into it, they were extremely confused. Their HR person was on leave. The store that I worked at in Utah...
Wait, hold on. Patient zero. Where was this person?
They came back and they were like, what's going on here? They had no idea what was going on. No, so in the store that I used to work at, their HR person was on leave as well. So there was just a lot of miscommunication, and I was supposed to start like a week after we got here, and like just barely I'm starting to a month later, just barely starting to have them say, oh, we can transfer you, whatever. But honestly, like after dealing with them, I'm like, they're messy. They're messy. I don't know if I want to work for people who have no idea what they're doing. So I'm kind of just pulling the trigger on that and being like, I'm going to do something else. The other reason is I interviewed, well, let me start from the beginning. I applied for a job at Universal.
That's usually how that works.
I did. Now
you're here to interview?
Wait, hold on. This is unorthodox, but I applied for a job.
I was interviewed.
Yeah, after I was interviewed. To Universal Studios Hollywood.
Nice.
It's only like 10-15 minutes drive from our house, so it's super close. And, I thought it would be a fun job just to work in a theme park for a little bit, see how it goes. I applied for a ride operator job. Now, it took them 2 weeks to even tell me they wanted to interview me.
What ride would you want to do if and when you're able to get that job?
Well, I wanted to... It would be cool to do the Harry Potter, I think it's Forbidden Journey, the main, like, Hogwarts Harry Potter ride. That would be cool. Or Jurassic World.
Harry Potter's forbidden.
Yeah. Or Jurassic World, because then in the hot months, because that is the only water ride. They have Water World as well, which...
Which is not a water ride.
Yeah, it's a show, but you can get wet if you sit in specific places.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. Recently, I was at Walmart, and there was one copy of Waterworld, and I didn't know whether that was the last copy or the only copy, and both were horrifying.
I'd like to think that people are self-isolating by getting the essentials: toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and Waterworld. And that was the last copy that they had, because they just sold out of that movie. Anyway, so I was thinking Jurassic World. It used to be Jurassic Park. They updated it to Jurassic World. I have not been on it. I don't know what makes it any different. I'm sure Chris Pratt is in there somewhere. So...
Contractually, he has to be at the ride every day.
Yeah, it's like
greet everyone.
It's like Johnny Depp on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
They
like,
made a robot.
Yeah, and he's like, "Get out of here, let's go."
Is that Chris Pratt just walked in?
That's him.
No, that's my wife.
You can't tell the difference between me and the Pratt.
No, tell me in the bedroom, especially.
Yep. You know, you've had sex with Chris Pratt before. You know.
That's right.
So
that's before he was Christian.
Exactly. Oh my god. So don't bring that up. I like him enough to not think about that.
Go ahead.
So
Anna Faris.
So I wanted that job maybe because like during the summer I maybe get some like breeze from the water when it's hot. I don't know. Like, so long story short, I went and interviewed.
I wonder if that's the reason people in the world of Jurassic World worked at Jurassic World. Like, well, I could work with the whale monster, get a cool breeze. I guess I should have said dinosaur, but
no, that was good. I like that. Whale monster.
I'm working here in whatever island that they were on. Go ahead.
So anyway, they sent me an email saying they wanted me to interview. The earliest time they had was a week later. So I waited a week. I went and interviewed. And during the interview, I guess the guy was like, "Hey, like, I like you. Let's have you come in."
Will you marry me?
Will you marry me? And I said, "Sir, please no. I am a married woman." And so I got married. And
it was Chris Pratt.
It was Chris Pratt. He was doing the interview. So he was like, "Hey, I actually think you would be a better fit for what's called the wand experience, which is..."
Back in my office.
My wand experience, you know what I mean? I'm an experienced wands until you do my wand experience. And it's essentially, if anyone's been to Harry Potter World, it's like you stand in a line next to Ollivander's like wand workshop, and you can go in and get like a more personalized wand than if you wanted to. Then instead of, going to you could buy pretty much any character's wand.
Right. For instance, Jessica has Hermione.
Yeah, I have Hermione.
She got me Voldemort's
wand.
Yes,
exactly.
And I always use it to fake cast spells on my dog, D'Artagnan, to try to control him and get him to do what I want.
Yeah, and it works. Right. It works.
So never speak again. Curse.
It worked. He's not speaking. So he was like, "I want you to come in and interview for the wand experience. How about next week you'll come in?" So I went in, and this was a few days ago. We're recording this March 13th, so I interviewed March 10th. Well, as you know by now, probably, that Universal Studios closed. This was 2 days after I interviewed that they announced they were going to close for 2 weeks because of the coronavirus. So, yeah.
Bad timing.
Yeah, really bad timing. Don't know when I'm going to find out about this job. I hope soon, because I don't, have a job, and but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. We're doing all right. We're just kind of chilling. I mean, obviously we can't really do much in LA anymore because things are just canceling left and right. Some shows that we were going to go to are now canceled, which they should be, of course. But now it's like, oh boy, there's like not much we can do.
We were able to get one last UCB show in, and then I made a grocery store run yesterday, and the grocery stores are running out of everything. I'm sure everybody's seen the pictures online, but especially downtown here. I mean, we're not panicked. We've got pretty much everything we need. We're not worried about water or anything, just kind of trying to figure out how to pass the time, as we currently are with podcasting, and hopefully you are by listening to this. But we can jump into a tip for a person coming to LA or moving to LA, just a little something that they should know before they come or while they're here. So, quick tip. It's a quick tip.
In the tip. Well, I was going to say in the butt, and then I was like, is that inappropriate? Fuck it. We're going to do it.
Your show, you can do whatever you
tip
want.
In the butt.
Tip in the butt. Okay. You want to start?
Sure. So this was a tip. I mean, it sounds obvious, but if you're a person who comes from a state like Utah, like we have, that is not sunny very often, except for in the summertime, you don't really think about putting sunscreen on unless you're like actively going out into the sun to swim or whatever. And like I said, it's really only in summer that you think of this. My tip is, if you were going to go outside at all in LA, put sunscreen on every day. It is really, really easy to burn. At least it is for me. So I know that's...
You are a vampire.
Yeah, I am. I'm like... I disintegrate as soon as I go out into the sun, which is why I moved to LA. I love self-torture. So... yeah, my tip is just make sure that that's a priority, just putting on sunscreen every single day, even if it's not that sunny, even if it's kind of like it's been raining all week this week, but I still would probably still put on sunscreen because the sun is ruthless.
Awesome. Well, my quick tip will be about the movies. Obviously, we're here in Tinseltown, Hollywood.
Yay!
But you're going to want to go see movies, and there are many theaters that are super expensive. So I just want to give a shout out to probably the easiest one to get to, as well as the one to be the cheapest, and that would be the Cinemark in North Hollywood. All of their theaters have luxury seating, so you can lay down. And if you get the Cinemark app,
well, not fully lay down, but
well, right.
you can recline.
I mean, I think that people understood what I mean.
You can bang, you can.
But they're the luxury seating, and if you get the Cinemark like movie pass or whatever, you get a free ticket every month, and so it pays for itself, and then you get a discount.
Well, how much is it?
It's like $9, and then a regular ticket is like $12 there, so you already get it for less than that, and then every other movie ticket that you buy through that app, you get it for $9 or less if it's a special discount. So I know movies are hard to see here in LA. You would think it would be the opposite, but if you go to the ArcLight, you might spend $20 just to get in. So if you want to see a movie for $6 or $8 that just came out, recommend Cinemark North Hollywood. They're not sponsors yet of this, but
they will
shout
be.
out to them. So quick tip for LA.
Yeah, so, and for those of you who don't know what the ArcLight is, that's a small chain. When I say small, I don't mean that the theater is small. It's huge. It's a massive theater. But there are only a few around, at least from what I've noticed. It's just basically like, it's huge. It has a lot of different... I think we've seen one movie there. I think we saw Avengers Age of Ultron 5 years ago. So, I mean, it's cool, but I remember going in and being like, it's not really worth this much money to come here. The one thing that was cool about it, I guess, is that sometimes they have like movie props and stuff like that they actually used in a case in the front, so that's kind of cool. But you can do that for free. You can literally go and walk in the lobby and go, that's cool, and then leave. So,
and that's there's many all over the place, but most of them you have to pay to be the ArcLight. So there's pay for parking, whereas at the Cinemark it's free parking as well. So it should add to that. Yeah,
and the other thing is, the North Hollywood is the closest to us, which we're in East Hollywood. So that's the closest Cinemark. It may be a little different if you move somewhere else in LA. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention about coronavirus is that we were actually going to start UCB improv classes this coming week, and we are not doing that anymore. It is postponed because UCB has shut down completely for at least a week. So definitely once we start taking classes, we're going to talk about our experience doing that and different things and kind of go in detail. We were going to start with the 101 because that is something that we need to do in order to actually perform there, is to completely train all their improv.
Right, and I'm interested to finally, be able to take a bunch of notes and stuff.
Right.
A UCB fanatic for a while, but not being able to take their classes, I would love to get the inside scoop and write everything down for the, years afterwards.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it'll be a different experience actually taking a 101 class when, you and I have done improv for a long time, and you've taught it, and I've helped teach it. So that it'll be cool. But
it'll
yeah,
be like Chris Pratt in Parks and Rec when he takes the guitar 101 and then they say you need to challenge yourself, and he leaves and he's like, oh, I lied, I was actually a rock star all along, and starts playing as he's going. So
no,
get kicked out.
Okay, so we wanted to talk about an experience we had real quick. This isn't like a review because it doesn't happen regularly in LA, but we just wanted to kind of talk about it because we really enjoyed it. So for those of you who know the show, Tim and Eric Awesome Show, Good Job. It is a show on Adult Swim, or it was. I think they're probably reruns and stuff like that, right. But it's no longer being created at this moment. It's ran by a man named Tim Heidecker and a guy named Eric Wareheim. They are very, very funny people. They are strange people. Like, their comedy is random, and
if you haven't heard of them, we'll put a link to one of our favorite YouTube sketches
in
the comments. You can check out one of theirs and see if it's for you. But so many celebrities have got in touch with them and contacted because they thought it was so funny, and they're like, oh, we've got to be a part of this. And a big part of the comedy that they do is kind of just like 90s retro parody, with a disgusting twist on top, as well as just poking fun at all this hypocrisy that goes on, but then really amping it up and turning it up to 11 the insanity when they make big choices for their sketches. They just go all the way with it. Right,
yeah. It's like the epitome. I feel like you described it this way before, that it's the epitome of, like, if your mom or dad walked in on you watching it, that's exactly what they imagine, like, millennials watching.
Right. This is insane.
This
is people eating brownies and then slamming doors. What's happening? And then it's, the camera's zooming up on their faces as it, keeps crop cutting closer to their eyes. What is this? This is George Orwell, 1984. You guys are hypnotized. And so it's just that kind of, I don't know, I would say avant-garde, but it's kind of just like this American boy avant-garde. So.
Yeah, it's very out there, but it's really funny. And anyway, so they were touring for, I think they did 38 shows across the US and Canada, maybe. And they came to LA as their last, I think they did their last two shows. We went to the very last show in LA, and it was at the theater at the Ace Hotel, which is in downtown LA. It was a gorgeous theater. It was huge. It was very, like, gothic kind of looking. It was just, I felt like the Phantom of the Opera was hiding in it. Like, it was very, very beautiful.
Well, like, all of the paintings and stuff on the wall were from, like, the Book of Revelations. You had like all the horses riding down, or it was like Dante's Inferno come to life kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then they had like little bars that you can get just, basic cocktails, wine, beer, popcorn, soda, whatever. So that was kind of cool, especially coming from Utah. Like, honestly, it still surprises me. I'm like, oh yeah, this is normal to like drink at a theater, because you can't really do that in Utah. So the show, we didn't know what to expect. I remember being like, what is this going to be? And you were like, no idea.
Right. I think I said after the show, I had no idea what to expect, and it's exactly what I thought it would
Yep,
be.
exactly. It's we can't even really describe what happened because it was just a bunch of random stuff, which is what the show is on TV. So once again, we expected something like that. There were some musical, there was some...
right. There were some shock jocks. They were pretending to be, kind of those news radio hosts in the early 90s, and they had created this new invention that was radio for dogs. It was all about, programming songs and things to get for dog listeners, and they just went on and on about that. So I loved that little sketch.
Yeah, a lot of it was like musical numbers, random little sketches. Tim Heidecker presented a play that he had wrote that was basically just a guy getting a colonoscopy in a doctor's office. And they it
was sponsored by Aetna, and he just kept bringing up Aetna insurance and how Aetna insurance had paid for it. And he was like a basketball star. He had just like bounced the ball a couple of times, and then his coach like talked to him like, "Hey, you need to get yourself checked out." And he said, "Well, I do have Aetna insurance. Let me go find out." So go on. Yeah,
it was very just, I don't know. It like I said, it's hard to talk about because it's so all over the place. But the main thing is they did it. They brought a guy up on stage, and so essentially what happened is they kept talking about this Pork's disease. And this is not like a play on Corona. This is stuff that they wrote way before Corona.
Right.
So they kept talking about Pork's disease, and then
and how debilitating it was, and just raising awareness for it.
Right, and then somehow everyone in the audience gets infected. And then so we're all gonna die in an hour, so they're counting down, and then someone comes in to give them pills that'll save everyone, but they
called Hogalaxin.
Yeah, Hogalaxin. And they said, "Oh, everyone can get one," and then they realized that they had one less, so one person needed to sacrifice themselves. So they picked this guy from the audience. They sang a song about, "Oh, it's so great that you're sacrificing yourself," like, all this stuff, and they put him in a coffin, rolled him off the stage. Then later, he came out with his girlfriend and proposed to her. So it was all the whole show was obviously something they still do, but they actively chose this guy so he could propose to his girlfriend. So that was kind of sweet. But the best part of the show was Tim Heidecker looked out into the audience. It was it was pretty clear that it was like the end of the show.
Right. Big song. Yeah. Everybody's clapping. The lights are flashing. They're saying thank you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they looked out into the audience, and he was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" to this lady. And he's like, "Oh my God, she's passing out." And he's like, "Is there a doctor in here? Is there a doctor?" And then we heard this voice, "Did somebody say doctor?" Which, for those of you who have seen the show, that is Dr. Steve Brule, who was played by John C. Reilly. So John C. Reilly did a special appearance, definitely had not been there in the tour across the country, as Dr. Steve Brule, and was just talking to the audience and,
he was pouting on stage, and he's like, as everybody knows, It's Valentine's Day.
Which it wasn't. It was
called it Valentine's Day.
It was a week ago.
I didn't have a Valentine. And,
Yeah, but we went crazy. We were like, "Oh my God." John C. Reilly is here and he's doing that character. It was amazing. Then I found out that later that the show the night before, they had a bunch of volunteers come up on stage to do a bit. And one of the volunteers that they brought up was Paul Rudd. So that would have been cool, too, to see Paul Rudd. Right. Because he was watching the show.
Sure.
All right, so anyway, that was a really fun experience. If they ever go on tour again, definitely check it out.
They usually go every couple of years. They've had 3 or 4 since, the early aughts, so...
Each week we review an LA restaurant and experiences in a segment we like to call Review Some Stews and Do's. Still keeping that name. Alright, so the restaurant we did this time was called House of Pies. Some of you may know House of Pies, or it sounds very familiar. It's a pretty famous LA it's mostly known for like breakfast and pies, obviously.
And they're great cakes.
Yeah. It's known for their amazing beignets. So the one we went to was in Los Feliz, and it was basically just when you go in, it's like a pretty standard diner looking place. It's kind of cute, and the prices are pretty affordable.
Right. That was surprising, especially here for LA. Most breakfast places we had gone when we came were you're going to end up paying $40-$50 at the end for just two people without alcohol, just for the regular breakfast. So
right, yeah,
having the $10 items, we're pretty happy about it.
Right, exactly. So I'll just talk about the stuff that we tried. So I tried the wheat bread sandwich, which I know sounds very like bland, but so what was in it? It was obviously whole wheat bread, and it had fried egg, bacon, avocado, red onion, and a 3-cheese blend on top of it, and it was really, really good. You know, for a whole wheat sandwich, like, it was amazing. The red onion made it like amazing. And then what did you have?
I got the Los Feliz Benedict, and so obviously in the California style, that means there's some turkey on that bad boy, and of course avocado, as they like to put on everything. And you know what? I love it. Everybody, you know, puts that in TV shows, and that's so LA, everybody's eating avocado toast. That's because it's fucking good.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can get it for cheap here, I mean, at least cheaper than most places. But the sandwich was great with all the avocado on it, and so I was happy to have it, and I've kind of become fascinated with Benedicts. I don't really like ham, so I always kind of replace it, but if there's a crab cake Benedict or a salmon Benedict or something like that, kind of like that Hollandaise sauce. How do you say it? It's great Hollandaise.
Happy Hollandaise.
Happy Hollandaise. Right.
It's Hollandaise.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's really good.
Yeah,
I love Hollandaise.
So I could recommend that if you go to House of Pies. You're in the mood for something like that. They did it right.
Yeah, and then of course while we were there, we had to try a pie. We tried the fresh strawberry cream pie, which is seasonal, I guess, so don't know if it'll be there when you're there, but it was really good. It was like vanilla custard, whipped cream, fresh in-house made whipped cream with strawberries, and really good crust. I love pie. Crust is not always my favorite. Like, it has to be like.
Wouldn't you think that would be the best part of pies?
You
would think that a person who's into pies, like, oh, well, I like the crust, and then insert whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a good crust in order for me to be like, this is an amazing pie.
What's a good crust? What made House of Pies crust so good?
I don't really know. I think sometimes crust can just be a little too bland, and I think it was really flaky, and I think they put a little, it was a little sweeter. Not that I need the crust to be sweet for it to be good, but it was just sweeter than most crusts, I think, and so I just liked it a little better. But it was delicious pie. So,
and inexpensive, as we said before.
Super
right?
inexpensive. So
are they open 24 hours?
So they're not open 24 hours, but they are open from like 6 or 7 to like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they're open pretty much 24/7, just not quite. They're going to allow their employees to have like 5 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep. And then
time to clean, that's what they're going to be doing.
Exactly.
I'm sure, sadly enough.
Probably. All right, so now it's time to review the do's, okay? So the thing that we did that is not something that you could really do anytime, so definitely it's something to just keep an eye out for. We went to the Landmark Theater in Westwood, which is a movie theater, and we saw the movie The Room with Tommy Wiseau. It was a live experience with Tommy coming and talking to us, and it was pretty cool. It was for those of you who don't know what The Room is, it is a terrible movie, so much so that it's basically probably the most famous terrible movie to ever be made. So if you haven't seen it, please do. It's amazing. And
so much so that they actually made a movie
Right.
about making that movie with James Franco and his brother called The Disaster Artist. So if you were able to see that, that was pretty famous and obviously based on that as well. So
Right.
famous enough to get Hollywood celebrities to go, okay, we want to tell that story of how the worst movie got made, a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. It's an amazing movie. I remember you showed it to me probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and was horrified by the amount of sex scenes in it. It was horrifying, and
It's a perfect amalgamation of terribleness, terrible writing, terrible
acting.
Yeah, right. Like terrible set design,
Yeah.
terrible like positioning. Just everything is just completely undone.
The
but
plot
in a
is
way
all over the place.
that they spent so much money putting together that it's at least watchable in the most unwatchable way. Right? You
Right.
love watching each and every scene just collapse on the next one while everybody's caring so much trying to make this actually something that's has soul or, matters emotionally, which none of it does.
Right, exactly. So the experience was we were waiting outside in a line to get in. We already had our tickets. They just didn't open the theater quite yet. And Tommy actually came out to the line and kind of said hi to people, signed someone's
I
football.
started shouting for him, and I could hear him. He was, because he was high-fiving people, and he's like, "Don't hurt me! Don't hurt me! Don't hurt me! Okay, come on." And then somebody asked him to sign something. He's like, "Oh, already? I'm signing out here. I'm signing in there. What is it? Okay, I'll sign the DVD for you. I'll give you a little heart." And he wrote a little heart.
It was.
He seemed both excited to be there and extremely annoyed, which is kind of his personality if you watch the movie.
Yeah. And I have a few different videos of him that I'll post on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the places. So he eventually went inside, then he did a photo op first. So we stood in line, and in order to get the photo op, you had to buy something of his merchandise. So the tour he called it the Love is Blind tour, which is really funny because he says the line "Love is Blind" in the movie, and it just happened to be around the time that
Right,
Love
now
is Blind,
Netflix
the
big
TV show
right.
is big, so it's kind of funny. So you had to buy merchandise. I think we bought a t-shirt for you. What does it say on it?
I can't remember. I got him to sign it, though. I mean, it's somewhere in the closet.
I think it's something like "You're Tearing Me Apart,
Right, You're
Lisa,"
Tearing Me Apart, Lisa,
or
right.
something along those lines.
Picture of Tommy.
Yeah, so we bought that. We went and took a picture with him, kind of chatted for a second, as much as you can with Tommy Wiseau.
If you check their website, we'll have the picture of it.
Yeah, we'll have the picture.
On social media.
And then we went into the theater, sat down, and then that's when he did the Q&A. So all of this happens before the movie, which is smart because then he could just leave and he doesn't have to wait. So he had everyone line up and kind of went down the line just talking to people. And
well, first of all, the person who was managing the event was just so soft-toned and like, "Hey, guys, so Tommy's going to come out," and he had a microphone. And so when he was asking people to line up, Tommy was coming down, and he just got so fed up with how boring this guy was being. He just ripped the microphone. He's like, "Oh, give it to me. I do this. Come on, need energy. You got to pick this up. Come on, the people are here." And so, then everybody starts cheering. He's like, "Okay, first question, you not ready. Second question."
Yeah, he was
and like
ruthless.
Moved along, and we couldn't quite tell if it was a joke or not, but he was like, "Come on, what's the question? Come on." Like, "Oh, you're not ready. Come on, think of it." And obviously people ask references to the movie itself, like, "How's your sex life?" Somebody asked him, and he's like, "How you think? None of your business."
Really good.
Really good. Okay.
What do you think?
Somebody asked how old he was and kind of, these cutting questions. But it's like, come on, you're here to have some fun.
Right.
But I went up there and I was able to get in line and ask him a question. So we're going to play the audio that we were able to get from that, and you can hear what I asked him. Tommy, big fan. I have a quick question. What's some advice that you would give to people who are moving to LA?
Just think positive, don't steal from the room, be original. Ha ha. Yes.
That was so good.
What a
Andrew.
question.
What a question I asked.
What a question.
Short and sweet. You could hear the response he gave to me, but I figured for the theme of the podcast, I had to ask him that. Especially because his journey is kind of the LA dream. Right. That's what he set out to do, and in a roundabout way, he succeeded.
He did it. He did it. He definitely is Tommy Wiseau. Like everything,
it's not a character.
All of
him.
Yeah, all of the things that he's made fun of for, like laughing randomly all the time, just ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Just it's
just
him.
Like, he would just be passing by the aisles and just like pointing people. Oh, you look, he's so strong. Oh, her. Oh, so
beautiful smile.
So
yeah, he told me I was pretty, which was nice. He's like, "Oh, you're so pretty."
Oh, look, he's
I'm like,
so
"Oh,
tall.
thank
He's
you."
so nice. Oh, look at him. He eat. Oh, you have those sodas. Like,
yeah, it was this. You could tell he was loving
Tommy,
it. So
right?
yeah. So he left eventually, and we watched the movie, and
Which was insane.
It was insane, and it's basically like a Rocky Horror Picture Show experience.
Right.
For those of you who haven't been to a Rocky Horror Picture Show experience, I personally haven't. I've only heard things. I would like to go eventually. But it's a full-on, like, people are yelling at the screen, throwing things, all of those stuff. And that's exactly what the room was.
On cue, too. Not
on
just
cue.
randomly. So it's all part of the show, or at least the energy of the show.
Yeah.
None of it's inappropriate.
It was clear that this has been a thing for a long time. Which, the movie came out, I think, in, like, 2003 or something like that. Right? And so it's been around for a long time, and it's clear that a lot of these people have just done this experience so often because they were all yelling things in unison. Like anytime that there was a panoramic shot of the ocean in the San Francisco Bay, they would go, water, because there was a lot of just like scenery shots for no reason.
Or anytime there was spoon art, like, which is so dumb because obviously in the movie, who has like a spoon poster or painting,
but he does.
But in the room there.
That keeps changing location,
right,
by the
exactly.
way.
So wherever, no matter where they're at, these paintings keep moving, and they're of spoons, and so people had plastic spoons that you could purchase at the theater.
Yeah, for like $1
at the screen and yell spoons. And it was kind of an interesting thing, having been people who quote unquote professionally roast movies in Salt Lake City, and we make an emphasis to tell our audience, hey, we're the ones who are going to be yelling.
Yeah,
and
it was
doing
complete
the roasting.
opposite.
And it was the opposite. It was like, we didn't say anything. I think I tried to yell one time, but it's hard because some people were yelling things randomly, and then other times it was like, oh, on cue,
unison,
this is supposed to happen. When it shows that spoon, we all yell, so it's kind of hard to get into the groove and know, versus other people are like, oh, when this happens, I'm going to yell that. So it was interesting seeing from the audience's perspective, especially with people who did know it so well, like you were saying, right?
Yeah, it was a really fun experience overall. I definitely would say watch the movie before you do that experience, just because you need to have the full, like, silent in your room, all the lights off, no distractions, no
before
phones.
It's ruined by,
or
at least so it can be fun. You go, okay, like I know what's going on.
You know what's going to happen, because things just get, like, you don't hear everything. Just like when we do the roast, like there are people who are like, I do wish that I had seen the movie before, because then I could have followed a little more. But some people do enjoy just going in there blind, not knowing what's going on. That's more fun to them. So it kind of depends on who you are. For me personally, I'm glad that I had seen it already and kind of know
it's for free
it.
on YouTube. You can easily watch it. It's not very long, maybe an hour and a half, maybe even less than that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really cool. Like I said, don't know how often that happens, but clearly often enough that it's a thing to do, for sure. Like, people will come to...
And it was in a cool part of LA. It's like near the UCLA campus. What do they call that area?
Westwood, right.
Okay, so definitely a place to check out. There was a lot of things happening. As I said, there were college kids everywhere, so there were all kinds of bars and multiple movie theaters, and they looked very similar to ones that Quentin Tarantino shot, once upon a time in Hollywood at, as well as others. So it's kind of a historic spot to be at. So definitely check that out in Westwood. Yeah,
it's really cool. We don't know if that is where he shot it. It just looked like it. Right. So we can't confirm it. We could probably confirm it.
Maybe we will by the end of this.
But do I want to put in the effort? Not really.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so now we're going to do an improv scene based on something that has happened within the past week. Now, Normally, I would say let's not do anything with coronavirus just because everyone is, but honestly, like, nothing that interesting has happened to us because we've been self-isolating.
Right.
So
It's hard to say, well, Jessica earlier this morning, she did this thing, and then it came in, it's like, oh, now let's do a scene about it.
Right.
But a quick story that is pertinent to Utah, so all of my Utah friends will...
Well, and the whole country now.
Well, obviously, yeah, as the story will develop, I'll explain. So, a basketball player named Rudy Gobert, he's two-time defensive player of the year, plays for the Utah Jazz, one of my favorite players, and he is from France, so he's a heavy French accent, which is a lot of fun sometimes because he, uses it to have fun with the media or pretend he doesn't understand something. So he's a kind of a jokester when it comes to, his teammates and the media. So he, earlier this week, was sick, and they didn't know what it was, and obviously there was word about the coronavirus, and so he jokingly, as well as to kind of show the media, hey, I'm not afraid of getting sick from you guys, because the NBA had a locker room lockdown, hey, no media in the locker room, and he was like, no, I'm happy to talk to you guys, I'm not afraid of getting sick from you. So his big old hands, he touched everybody's microphone, and all of his teammates were saying that in the locker room he was purposefully touching their stuff and them, and joking around about it to kind of break the seriousness that everybody was taking, obviously to his detriment, or we wouldn't be talking about it. But we bring the story up because I was going to watch the Jazz game, the first time I've been available to do so in like a month. It was 5 o'clock. I had my Jazz jersey on, got my computer open. I'm ready to watch it. The game is about to start. I'm excited. And somebody comes running onto the court, and it's a doctor, and you can see him talking to the refs. And a couple of minutes later, they just say the game, everybody leave the stadium in a timely fashion. There's an emergency, no other details. Obviously, it came out that Rudy Gobert had been tested, and he got the coronavirus. And so, obviously, they were worried about it spreading everywhere. And that night, the NBA decided to suspend the league, at least for now. We're all hoping and praying it's only temporary and they can get back to things as normal. But a big reason was because he got sick and it was verified. Not saying, of course, it would have happened right after, so it's not like, if he hadn't, then everything would be fine and the NBA would still be going, for the whole rest of the month. But he definitely is a person to point to of like, okay, that's why it's so serious now, and that's why everybody's taking precautions. And now, unfortunately, his teammate Donovan Mitchell is now sick with corona as well. So he definitely spread it around. His foolish joking, even if it was in good fun and wasn't maliciously, has been a serious error and a foolish mistake at the very least. So that was a story, interesting or otherwise, but definitely something that affected us and, hit home because being a Utah Jazz fan, a lot of people online were, talking about it, making comments at the very least, but, nastier as well, comments as well. But so that's the story. Perhaps we can do a scene on. We'll try our best not to insult anybody, but what can you do, right? Oh, hi, Mr. Gobert, is that correct?
Yes.
May I call you Rudy?
You can.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to the Children's Hospital today. The kids are so happy to see you. Are you doing everything? I see you, rubbing your nose. Is everything okay?
Oh, that is what we do in France. We just, hide our nose. It's impolite to hide, to show your nose to people.
Well, let's head in there and you can meet the kids. Now, usually we have everybody wash their hands.
No.
I noticed you refuse to?
Well, I do. Things are a little different in France.
Oh, I see. You're not accustomed to that. Well, no problem. We don't need you to do that. And I understand. I mean, those big hands are defending against, other basketball players. I'm sure they're fine. So let's, bring you in here. And we're going to put a mask on you really quickly if you want to bend down to me, if that's okay. Oh, this one doesn't seem to fit. You know what? That's going to be fine. We don't have a mask large enough.
Well,
I don't want to inhibit you being able to talk to the kids.
No. It is offensive to put things over your mouth.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Well, let me have you meet one of our, he's one of our sickest kids. His name's Henry. Let me bring him out here. Let me take him out of his bubble.
Hello, Henry.
Hello? Is that you, Joe Ingles?
No. Joe is white. He's stupid.
Oh, my eyes have been closed shut because I'm too sick to open them. Let me feel your hands on my face so I know it's you.
All right. Well, hold on. I have some chocolate on my hand. Let me lick it off really quick. Okay.
That is you. Your hands are covering my whole face and then going around the backside and covering it again. It is you, Rudy.
Yes, that is what I am known for.
Wow. Are you going to win the game for me tonight?
Of
Really
course.
make me feel better.
Oh, don't cough. You know that the coronavirus is around.
She, covers. I am so sorry about that, Rudy. These sick little kids, they just don't understand, yet they're too naive and they're so young. Let me bring you over to one of our other kids. They don't have something that's, communicable. So this is little Diane. As you can see, she's severely sick. We have her propped up, and she's got a breathing machine. So she might not be able to talk. So you're going to have to get very close to her if you want to be able to hear what she has to say. But go ahead and say hi to her.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to be really close to your ear.
What?
And let me just tell you that, just go after your dreams. I know that you're dying, but please, just...
I'm dying?
Yes, but don't listen. Doctors don't know what they're doing.
What?
That's what you have. You're severely burned. You're going to die.
Donovan Mitchell?
No.
Who are you?
I'm Rudy Gobert.
Oh. Beep.
All right, so that was that. That was that.
I hope all improv scenes end with everybody saying, and that was that.
That was that. Mm-hmm. You know what? Most improv scenes should end like that, if I'm being honest.
And that was that. And everybody just dusts their hands.
Yeah, that was the best French accent I could do. I've never been trained in one, and that's all I could focus on.
Rudy speak, that was perfect.
Oh, that's
little
good.
Ukrainian. And he also doesn't care for kids.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Allegedly.
Allegedly. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please check out our social media accounts. We are on Facebook at Moving to LA Podcast, Instagram by the same name, and Twitter at Moving to LA Pod, as well as our personal accounts.
Mine's at A Sprague on Twitter and at Andrew Sprague on Instagram. That's all for me.
And my social media is Jessica Sprague on Instagram and Jessica_Sprague on Twitter. That's right. Some bitch got at Jessica Sprague on Twitter. I couldn't snatch both of them. All right. And also please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/MTLA. The groups for the different tiers that you could have, that you can choose from, are: the lowest tier is for $2 a month. That is called Fan. You can be a fan of George Clooney. For tier 2, that's $5 a month. You can be George Clooney. And for $10 a month, you can be George Clooney post Batman and Robin. So the better George Clooney.
Right. So these are the names of all the different
yes.
Patreons that you can jump in on, and definitely go check it out at the very least to see the pictures that Jessica posted for the different subsets and the George Clooney pictures. So you can also listen to all the episodes. We're gonna, as the show goes on, we're gonna figure out all the different rewards for the different levels and bonus episodes and things that you can only go through there. But just check it out for fun anyways. We're gonna post all the pictures.
We have a website called movingtolapodcast.com. You can listen to the podcast on there. You can we post like little articles about, like little blog posts about the places we went to.
All of our videos will be up on there, as well as the weekly. You can see kind of like a blog, like you said.
Right, and how to contact us, a little about page about us. Well, if you have any suggestions or questions or comments, please do that on our social media. Really, anywhere is fine. Please do that, and Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. And to sign off, if you can make it here, you've made it here.